Still watching Loyola television. Time now for the news summary at 22 hours. We look at the headlines. Police to take punitive action against all those found wanting in the ransacking of a national registration center. After a 2 weeks break, schools across the country are back in session today for children in examination classes. Tanzania's President John Magufuli has been challenged to a televised debate by his rival Tundu Lissu ahead of next month's election. The parallel government in eastern Libya has submitted its resignation after a rush of protest over deteriorating living conditions and corruption. My name is Luizia Nalupumbwe. The police command says the action taken by United Party for National Development cadres to ransack the National Registration Office and steal equipment in Lukasha cannot be condoned. Yesterday, suspected UPND cadres stormed the registration center in Lukasha and destroyed some machinery being used during the ongoing mobile national registration card exercise. They also stole some equipment as well as beat up officers they found at the center. Kakuma Kanganja, the police inspector general, has strongly condemned the action, stating if there are any suspicions or concerns, police are open and ready to receive complaints from anyone regarding the exercise. Mr. Kanganja said the national registration exercise has no bearing on the by-elections, warning that police will follow the matter to the latter and will take punitive action against all those found wanting.
As police, we strongly condemn the action taken by the suspected UPND cadres. We are all aware that the mobile registration exercise is not a hidden process because there has been maximum publicity about this activity way back before this process was commenced. Further, this exercise is being done in broad daylight and not at night. Therefore, the action taken by UPND cadres to ransack the registration office and steal equipment is a big drawback to this process, which is being undertaken countrywide and cannot be condoned.
And 3 United Party for National Development UPND party campaign officials have arrested in Lukasha constituency on occasions of, I'll read that again. 3 United Party for National Development UPND party campaign officials have been arrested in Lukasha constituency on accusations of malicious damage to property. The arrested officials are Patrick Mucheleka, the Deputy Secretary General in charge of politics, Elias Mubanga, the campaign manager for Lukasha, and Samuel Ngwira, the National Information and Publicity Secretary. The UPND has since denied the allegations labeled against the officials, saying it is a play by the ruling party to cause the suspension of the Lukasha by-election. But the ruling Patriotic Front says despite the confusion being perpetrated by the UPND, the party is confident to win in the by-elections. Sande Chanda, the PF media, said his party has put across messages of development and unity of purpose. But a non-governmental organization is impressed with the peaceful manner political parties are conducting themselves in the period leading to the Lukasha and Mwansabombwe by-elections. GIA's initiative says political parties should continue to exhibit tolerance towards each other. MacDonald Chipenzi, the GIA's initiative executive director, was speaking in an interview with Loyola News in Lusaka. Mr. Chipenzi has also called on institutions directly involved in the elections to help the Electoral Commission of Zambia conduct credible and free elections by being objective in the execution of duties.
The directive piece that is being recorded in Mwansabombwe and also in Lukasha by all political parties for observing and appreciating tolerance as a key to holding credible elections. We expect that peace will continue, and we expect that these institutions will continue to play their referral role and not to be active campaigners in an election that is contested by different opponents. That's what we expect. And we expect that there will be efficiency in the management of the elections, including the results, so that no one expects any delay, and that the COVID measures shall be respected by all, and not one party and the other party.
Voters in Lukasha and Mwasabombwe got to the polls on Thursday, 17th September, to elect their respective parliamentarians. Political parties have heightened campaigns in Lukasha and Mwasabombwe constituencies ahead of the September 17th by-elections. The ruling Patriotic Front is looking to retain the Mwasabombwe seat, which fell vacant after the death of its member Roger Smwewa, while the Lukasha seat fell vacant following the death of independent MP Mwenya Munkonge. 6 political parties are participating in the Lukasha election. They are the Patriotic Front, Movement for Multi-Party Democracy MMD, United Party for National Development UPND, People's Alliance for Change PAC, United Party for Prosperous Zambia, and the Leadership Movement. Meanwhile, the Mwasabombwe election has attracted 5 political parties, namely PF, UPND, Leadership Movement, and UPPZ. After a two weeks break, schools across the country are back in session today for children in examination classes. The 9 examination classes have continued with online lessons and other forms of remote learning. But with the continued prevalence of the coronavirus, what does the average school day now look like? Our staffer Elena Piri got us this report.
In its ongoing review of the coronavirus situation in the country under the new normal, government in May announced that primary and secondary schools reopen for pupils in examination classes only. Some pupils decided to stay away from school for fear of contracting the disease.
Most of our learners are attending classes as opposed to the earlier days when the term just opened. We used to have a limited number of pupils reporting because most of them were scared to go back to school.
Zambia National Union of Teachers says it is happy with the compliance levels in implementing COVID-19 preventive measures by schools in Lusaka.
All the schools are adhering. Our pupils in the classes, all of them are putting on the masks. And also we have our pupils who have been put in rooms which are specially allocated, so to say. And then we have also put in our schools buckets almost on each and every entrance into the classroom.
New Avondale Academy is not taking any chance with the disease, but put in place facilities to ensure strict adherence to the COVID-19 preventive measures as advised by the Ministry of Health.
We are trying to implement all the measures of the new normal. Kids are not allowed to come to school without a mask, and they all know that they have to make sure they have hand sanitizer. The first thing they do when they get into the school, they make sure they have their temperature checked and they have to wash their hands. We have the school bus. The children are 3 on each seat. That means there's almost a meter apart. And then even in the classes, we're using 2 classes. The children still have to keep a meter.
For now, no one knows when pupils in non-examination classes will reopen as the pandemic keeps evolving, but one can only hope for the best. Elena Piri, Loyola News in Lusaka.
Pupils and students in non-examination classes will report on 21st September, while all universities and colleges affiliated to TVETA will resume classes on the 28th of September. Zambia needs innovators and entrepreneurs who can help turn around the economy grappling with the effects of the coronavirus. The Zambia Development Agency says innovators and entrepreneurs must rise towards the economic recovery of the country. Gabriel Musentekwa, the Acting Enterprise Development Director at the Development Agency, was speaking in an interview with Loyola News today.
They are providing goods and services to the society. The government cannot provide all the necessary goods and services that are required. So as they come in, they're actually helping the government, to reach out where the government is not able to, to reach out. Then the other issue is pertaining to the improvement of the standards of living of the people that are involved within the same enterprises. They are earning something, and what they are earning is able to help them to cushion in terms of livelihood. They will be able to buy things that they wouldn't have bought if it were that these innovations had not come through.
The COVID-19 pandemic has undeniably affected the country's economic sector, owing to the disruptions in the supply and value chains, among other factors. The reduced business activity in the country has seen some entities focus on e-commerce to enable consumers access goods and services just by the click of a button. Under the new normal, this kind of trade is being encouraged to help observe the COVID-19 health measures instituted by the Ministry of Health. Mokasibuku now reports.
Fast, efficient, and little to no human contact required, e-commerce in Zambia has continued providing consumers with the much-needed goods and services just by the click of a button. In the wake of COVID-19, many businesses have opted to provide online goods and services. The coronavirus outbreak is not only changing the way consumers shop, but also how they pay for their purchases. Anyone can simply log on to their computers or mobile phones and shop online. In most cases, this has provided an effective way of avoiding overcrowding and physical contact. Shabdin Mwemba is an economist.
So what happens is that actually you advertise your products, let's say on the internet, and then those who are interested, they'll show interest, on that system, and then thereafter you also make arrangements of delivery. So you find that if you take advantage of e-commerce, instead of you waiting for sales, you can actually make sales, you can deliver, to make your life easy, especially during this period of COVID-19.
With many people observing the Ministry of Health guidelines, some traders have been displaced from their usual trading areas, while others are taking turns to trade to prevent overcrowding. E-commerce has proven to be a necessary measure to help keep local businesses afloat during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mokasibuku, Loyola News, Lusaka.
In international news, Tanzania's President John Magufuli has been challenged to a televised debate by his rival Tundu Lissu ahead of next month's election. President Magufuli is seeking a second 5-year term amid concerns of increased repression of opposition parties. Mr. Magufuli has not yet responded to the challenge. Mr. Lissu, the leader of Chadema party, said a televised debate of the presidential candidates will be healthy for the country's democracy. He told a campaign rally that President Magufuli shouldn't be afraid of debating a person who has never been a president like him. The parallel government in eastern Libya has submitted its resignation after a rush of protest over deteriorating living conditions and corruption. In the latest demonstrations, protesters in the city of Benghazi set fire to the headquarters of the military commander Khalifa Haftar. They also clashed in his stronghold of Al-Maj for the first time. A spokesman for General Haftar said the administration backed peaceful protest but would not allow terrorists and the Muslim Brotherhood to hijack them. Until now, protests against the situation in Libya have focused largely on the capital Tripoli, home to the UN-recognized Government of National Accord. Schools and universities in South Sudan are scheduled to reopen on Monday after nearly 6 months of closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. The decision to reopen schools and universities was reached during a cabinet meeting on Friday, chaired by President Salva Kiir. Health Minister Elizabeth Akuyo told her colleagues that there was a significant reduction in the number of infections that necessitated the reopening of learning institutions in the country. The government closed all schools in March after coronavirus cases surged. The United Nations Children's Agency UNICEF and Cultural Agency UNESCO had previously urged for reopening of schools. Billionaire Mike Bloomberg has pledged at least $100 million to help Democrat Joe Biden's presidential campaign in Florida. Of the battlefield, states Florida offers the biggest share of the Electoral College votes needed to win. Mr. Bloomberg already spent $1 billion this year trying to defeat Mr. Biden to become the Democratic challenger. Donald Trump has hinted he will spend his own money in the state ahead of early voting opening on 24 September. Both campaigns are keen to appeal to voters who may be casting their votes early by post and set the tone of the final weeks of their campaigns. Postal voting is expected to be double that seen in 2016 as the coronavirus pandemic spurs voters to avoid polling stations. Florida offers 29 of the 270 Electoral College voters needed to win the election. Only California 55 and Texas 38 offer more but are seen as safe Democrat and Republican territory respectively. President Trump won Florida in 2016 while Democrat Barack Obama took the state in 2012. Grassroots Soccer Academy has today begun a 5-day training workshop for young people living with HIV virus. The training is aimed at providing them with psychosocial skills that will allow them to deliver services in their respective local health facilities. Over 50 adolescents are participating in the training program being conducted at the Olympic Youth Development Center, or YDC. We have details in this report.
Grassroots Soccer has begun a 5-day training workshop for adolescents living with HIV. The trainings were held at the Olympic Youth Development Center in Lusaka. Over 50 adolescents are being equipped with skills that will help them provide psychosocial support and assist in counseling their fellow adolescents in their respective communities.
What is happening here is we're conducting training for young people to become skills coaches or peer educators. We use soccer metaphors to educate young people. So hence the language, when we say coaches, we're referring to peer educators that deliver the activities. So what we want to achieve first of all is to reach out to a lot of young people that are living with HIV and also that could be having issues with mental health, because we've incorporated mental health in our curriculum because there are so many mental health issues that young people are going through, depression that they're going through, especially those living with HIV, that it should be able to stand up and face their challenges and also access services. When they need help, they need to visit a psychosocial counselor who will take them through the process that they're able to live with the condition of HIV, so they accept their status and adhere to medication. And also need to help them suppress their viral load for those that could have high viral load, so that they're able to live a healthy life.
The young people are looking forward to giving back to their communities and assisting those that have various social and mental health challenges.
So it's important because when it's coming from a young person, it actually adds value, because here is me talking to a person who's like me. Rather than if I was to talk to a person who's much older than me, I would feel uncomfortable and I wouldn't open up to actually tell them the things that I go through or maybe the challenges that I face.
Grassroots Soccer Academy is a local non-profit organization that incorporates the use of sport in advancing social change and access to platforms for sharing of best practices among young people and adolescents in Zambia. Mokasibuku, Loyola News.
South Korea, Miriam Lee won her first major title at the Anna Inspiration after a 3-way playoff. The 29-year-old beat Nelly Korda and Brooke Henderson, who had tied for the lead after the third round, with a birdie on the first extra hole. She shot a 5-under par 67 in the final round, including 3 chip-ins and an eagle on the 18th, to tie on 15-under during regulation play. Victory marks world number 94 Lee's 4th LPGA title and her first since 2017. Her previous best finish at a major came at the 2016 British Open when she tied for second. On that sporting item, we come to the end of the news at 22 hours, but before we go, a recap of the headlines once again. Police to take punitive action against all those found wanting in the ransacking of a national registration center in Loyola. Yesterday, suspected UPND cadres stormed a registration center in Lukasha and destroyed some machinery being used during the ongoing mobile national registration card exercise. Kakuma Kanganja, the Police Inspector General, has strongly condemned the action, stating if there are any suspicions or concerns, police are open and ready to receive complaints from anyone regarding the exercise. After a 2 weeks break, schools across the country are back in session today for children in examination classes. The non-examination classes have continued with online lessons and other forms of remote learning. Pupils and students in non-examination classes will report on 21st September, while all universities and colleges affiliated to TVETA will resume classes on the 28th of September. Tanzania's President John Magufuli has been challenged to a televised debate by his rival Tundu Lissu ahead of next month's election. President Magufuli is seeking a second 5-year term amid concerns of increased repression of opposition parties. Mr. Magufuli has not yet responded to the challenge. Finally, the parallel government in eastern Libya has submitted its resignation after a rush of protests over deteriorating living conditions and corruption. In the latest demonstrations, protesters in the city of Benghazi set fire to the headquarters of the military commander Khalifa Haftar. They also clashed in his stronghold of Al-Marj for the first time. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production and news crew, my name is Louisia Nalupumbwe. Good night.